Welcome to Realty Talk, where we talk real about real estate. My name is Frank Rodriguez, and our goal is to bring you transparent and useful information relating to real estate. Welcome to Realty Talk. This is Frank, and thank you for joining us today. Right now, we're on a series on probates. We do have previous videos, so if this is your first video, I recommend you go back and watch those. And for those of you that have been following the series, you know that on our last video, we covered how to initiate a probate, and we left off where we'll be picking up today, which is the petition hearing. What happens next? So at the petition hearing, the main objective is for the petitioner to be confirmed, as we have here. Now, this would take place if, as notices go out before the hearing, if no one contests for this person as the personal representative in being confirmed. Now, once that person is confirmed by the judge as the personal representative, again, this could be either an executor or an administrator. The umbrella term that we use for the role is personal representative. Once that person is confirmed, usually within a week or two max, that personal representative will receive what we call the letters of authorization. Now, what these letters do is to give the legal power to the personal representative to start doing what they must on behalf of the estate. And these letters are key. Without these letters, the personal representative does not have any power to do anything. With these letters having that legal power, the first thing the personal representative wants to do would be to identify all the assets that belong to the deceased. With the letters, they can make phone calls to different banks that they were aware that the deceased had accounts in. They can go into life insurance policies. They can pretty much have access to take a full inventory to identify all the assets. After the personal representative using the letters to have full legal rights to identify all the assets, then the next step that the personal representative must take is to secure the assets. Because unfortunately, when someone passes, even among the family members, and there could be third parties that want to, take hold of some of the assets. It could be tangibles such as jewelry, cash, or intangibles. So it's important that the personal representative secures assets, meaning that no one can touch them until the next step. And what happens next is where the personal representative takes full inventory and valuation of all the assets. And this is important because this gives not only transparency to the other beneficiaries and heirs, but also it's a law for the creditors. And this is done by actually paperwork has to be filled out by the personal representative, inventory list of all assets along with the valuation. And this valuation could be done in different forms. Certain assets may need professionals to come in and give formal appraisals. Others can be guesstimates based on what the personal representative thinks they may be worth, though it's important that this step takes place. Next step is securing the real property, as we can see here. And even though earlier I mentioned one of the steps is securing assets, I do like to point this out separate or part of, because a lot of times from my experience, personal representatives, because they're dealing with so much, right? They're a little overwhelmed with paperwork, speaking to all the other beneficiaries, and doing everything that entails being a personal representative, that they forget this part, that if there's any real estate involved, regardless of what they may be doing with that property or those properties throughout the process, they have to be secured, right? Especially on vacant properties. These properties tend to attract squatters. And it's very, very important to be able to secure the property. That's the real estate. I had an incident a few years back that the personal representative was out of state, and I did advise them to take care of this, though they neglected this aspect of it. And when they finally came around to moving forward with the real estate aspect, that's when we came into the picture. The property itself already had squatters. It took us over a year here in LA County to rid the property of the squatters so we can proceed. So I highly recommend, as soon as you're confirmed, uh, either a handyman that you work with or speaking to a qualified realtor that has handyman that can go and secure the property. Okay, so far so good. The personal representative now has identified all the assets, secured the assets, gave valuation to the assets, and also any real estate involved, the properties have been secured. Now that that's been taken care of, the next step, now we start getting into identifying and verifying all debt against the estate. That's going to be mortgages, credit cards, personal loans, car loans, all debt that the deceased had. And so the personal representative needs to reach out and make sure the amount that is owed, because there's a principal balance and then there's what's called a payoff balance. And the personal representative also wants to keep track of any payments being made on this debt from the estate. But more importantly is identifying and verifying the debt against the estate. Okay, as the personal representative as taking care of assets and any debt, now the underlying process that the personal representative is taking care of along this way, it's making sure that they're carrying out the will directives, meaning that if this is an estate that someone passed away and left the will, we know this personal representative is not an administrator. That would be if someone passed away without a will. In this case, this person, the personal representative, would be an executor. Okay, as a quick review, and if you're paying attention to these videos, hopefully you're understanding the terminology and the different roles that are played based on the technicality. So if this is a testate probate, meaning there was a will, the executor, one of their responsibilities, especially at this juncture, once they figure out assets and debts, is making sure that the deceased wishes are honored and carried out. If there is any real estate involved, and either if with a will, the directive was to liquidate some of the real estate for liquid funds for the heirs, or no will, whichever, if there's any real estate involved and the properties have to be sold, then the next step would be where the personal representative would interview qualified real estate agents to get the job done. And I say qualified, and that's the key word here, because myself being in real estate, I realize the amount of years that not every agent's qualified to manage a probate. So the personal representative, either through references or videos like this, or whatever state or county you're in, finding someone that's qualified to manage a probate real estate process is key. So I highly recommend every personal representative, even when we're involved, to interview at least 3. And I know that there's a lot of good probate attorneys out there that tend to recommend, and that's completely okay. And this is not to knock the probate attorney's recommendation, because sometimes we're recommended, by attorneys, though I still recommend the personal representative to go out of their way in exercising their fiduciary duty to the estate to interview at least one or two more. Very important aspect if real estate does have to be sold. Wow, I know so far this has been a mouthful, and thank you if you're still watching for hanging in there. Now, imagine someone going through this in real life as a personal representative. So, kudos to all of you that step up as personal representatives to take on this task. Now, after going through this process of assets, paying off debt, selling off any real estate that's involved. The final part of the personal representative is to submit a detailed accounting ledger of the distributions of all the assets, paying off any debt, making sure who that debt was paid to, verified by the personal representative, when it was paid, and then, of course, the distribution of any remaining assets, if be it cash or jewelry or anything else, the distribution of that to the beneficiary. So it's a lot of work. And just a quick snapshot here of the timeline. As I mentioned in a previous video, once someone passes and the petition is filed, it takes around 3 weeks to a month and a half, which is fairly quick considering the full probate process, which can take up to a year sometimes or even more. But on average, it's probably between 9 to 14 months. So that first 3 weeks to a month and a half of filing the petition, none of what we covered today can be done, which is not good. Again, going back to the estate being in limbo. So it's very important if you have a family member that passed away and you're not sure what to do, reach out to a professional, starting with a great probate attorney, or if you don't know one, reach out to a probate specialist dealing with real estate. And we have great contacts of ethical, hardworking, transparent probate attorneys. All right. So once all this is completed, the personal representative can continue their mourning process and pat themselves on the back that they've gone above and beyond for the benefit of everyone involved. So as a quick summary, let's review once more each of the steps in this whole process of the responsibilities of a personal representative. If you recall, at the hearing, the first thing that takes place is the representative is confirmed. Once confirmed, they'll receive their letters of authorization. So this way they can start doing what they need to on behalf of the estate. Then they'll identify all the assets, secure all the assets, do an inventory and valuation of the assets, securing any real property, meaning any real estate that's involved, identifying and verifying all the debt, carrying out the will directives, right? If there is a will, the deceased wishes, interview qualified real estate agents, which hopefully, as I discussed earlier, is a major step, and that's where we're here, or other great real estate agents that can help you. And then lastly is submit the accounting ledger to the courthouse. So in this quick summary that we went through, plus the detailed information, I hope that you have a better understanding of what the personal representative does once confirmed at the hearing. And if you may be going through probate anytime soon, or if you know of someone, share this video. As you know, that the information we share here is, with goodwill. We're not here to sell anything. On the contrary, we're here to support and give service where needed. So, and we like to start by sharing this valuable information sincerely. Okay. Hope you enjoyed it, and follow us on social media, and to stay on top of every video that we put out, subscribe to this channel.